Hey there, and welcome to round 1, bout 10 of the 2019 Master Marzen competition. Today sees Freetail from San Antonio, Texas, take on Dust Bowl from Turlock, California. The Master Marzen was my idea to pit 32 of America's top craft breweries against each other to see who could come out with the best Oktoberfest offering. Each bout sees the beers pit against each other in a best of 5 criteria competition, with the winner progressing until there is only one left. Those 5 criteria are packaging, aroma, flavor, body, and the people's choice. Let's go ahead and jump into criteria 1, which is the packaging design. You can see here Freetail, being San Antonio based, have really brought in some of the Dia de los Muertos themes that you would expect in their October Fiesta. But they're also hybridizing that with the traditional German garb that you would see at Oktoberfest for a very interesting can. The can itself is orange, one of the very common colors you see for Oktoberfest beers. If you're less familiar, you might not notice, but at the bottom of the can there, that's actually the skyline of downtown San Antonio, so that's a nice little touch. Dust Bowl, on the other hand, have gone for a very clean and modern take on the traditional colors of Oktoberfest. You've got the nice sort of strong divide here between the white and the blue, and the actual checkerboard at the bottom that's typical of Oktoberfest is both two-tone blue and blue and white. So that's an interesting combination of, as I said, kind of the tradition and their new take on things. Because the Master Marzen is all about Oktoberfest, and I like the marriage of the traditional Oktoberfest colors with a more clean, sleek design, I'm going to go ahead and award criteria number 1 to Dust Bowl. So they're going to go ahead and take the lead, 1-0. Criteria 2 through 4 require me to actually taste the beer, so let's go ahead and get them put in glasses. Okay, so with the beers poured, let's go ahead on to criteria 2, which is aroma. I'm going to start with Dust Bowl. Now, the Dust Bowl smells exactly what you expect an Oktoberfest to smell like. It's got this really powerful, deep, robust kind of toasted malt smell, and looking at the coloration, it looks like it's a very typical and traditional take on the Marzen. The smell itself is absolutely delicious, and I can only imagine it's going to translate into a very tasty brew. Let's see how the Freetail smells. The Freetail smells very tasty, but what's really lacking is that toasted malt that I expect from a Marzen. It's malty and it's kind of sweet and bready, but it doesn't have that sort of toasted quality that I expect in a Marzen. Based on that, I'm going to go ahead and award criteria number 2 to Dust Bowl, and they are now leading 2-0. So, the third criteria, which probably matters the most, is the flavor. Let's go ahead and check these out. That is a really well-balanced and very tasty beer. The toasted malts are robust and deep throughout the mouthful, and then on the back end you get this kind of great hoppy bitterness sort of interlaced with the flavor, and what you get in the overall experience is just the full gamut of what you would expect from an Oktoberfest Marzen beer. Dust Bowl have done a really good job. That is a very, very tasty beer. Alright, let's see what Freetail has to offer. So from a flavor perspective, the Freetail kind of lives up to what you would expect based on both the aroma and just visually how it looks. It's full-bodied and tasty, has a lot of breadiness to it, and a slight sweetness. It's a great beer that I'd happily enjoy drinking several of, but it's just not really ticking all the boxes of what I would expect out of a Marzen, again, being the Master Marzen competition. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and give criteria number 3, flavor, to Dust Bowl, which means they are now leading 3-0. Okay, criteria number 4, which is body. If you recall a little earlier in the video, both of them poured a really, really solid foamy head, and it actually hung around for quite a while. Both of them are lacing reasonably as well, so it's really going to come down to preference in terms of mouthfeel and texture. Take another couple of mouthfuls so we can get the full experience. So the Dust Bowl is pretty full-bodied and thick. The Dust Bowl is very full-bodied. It's somewhat on the thick side, as you would expect, once you start getting into the fall and winter seasonals. On the flip side, the Freetail is noticeably thinner and crisper, but it still has quite a bit of weight to it, and a solid amount at that. That being said, it's at a pretty nice mouthfeel consistency that you could drink several of these without really having too many issues in terms of bloating. I'm going to go ahead and give criteria number 4 to Freetail, which means that Dust Bowl is now leading 3-1 going into the final criteria. So criteria number 5 is the people's choice. Basically, if you follow me on Instagram at Sargent Suds, you'll get an opportunity to vote on each of the bouts from each round for the duration of the tournament. Polling for this bout was open for 24 hours. It recently closed, and as you can see here on the screen, the winner of this one was Freetail with 55% of the vote to Dust Bowl's 45. For those of you playing at home, that is 31 votes for Freetail and 25 for Dust Bowl. So Freetail picks up their second criteria. Unfortunately, that isn't quite enough to get them over the line. Dust Bowl does pick this one up 3-2, and they will progress to the next round, where they will meet the winner of Due South versus Ranger Creek. Alright y'all, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you did, please go ahead and make sure that you are subscribed. There's plenty more beer drinking to be done, and that's your best way to stay on top of the progression of the tournament. While you're there, go ahead and throw this a like, and let me know your experience with either of these two breweries in the comments down below. Until next bout, cheers!